expectations.
Let me ask you, Mr. Lee, what are so you know, superintendent of Trenton, superintendent of Orange. Um, Give me some of the negative and positives of what that is being superintendent of like serious like urban districts. Like how walk me through like the negative and positives of that.
I don't think, well, what my answers may not be this specific to urban,
Okay,
it's
okay,
just specific to running organizations.
got you.
Um, is trying to get everybody to work together.
Mhm.
You often heard me say the problems with schools aren't the
Aren't
kids,
the
the
kids? You used to
adults.
always say that. You
It's the
always said
adults.
that. Yep.
The problem with most, when if there's a kid that's messed up, I guarantee there's an adult that has a hand in it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether the kid decides to join a gang, well, they felt more comfortable with their friends
Mm-hmm.
than they do at home with their family, or whatever. Um, or they're trying to measure up to some adult or what they're doing. And so, so it's, my thing has always been, if I can get the adults out the way, because kids are great. I mean, they really are. So getting people to work together,
Mm-hmm.
not about you. Take the ego. It ain't about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's about what are we doing for kids. You can't say it's about you, and then when the district is measured by something and doesn't do well,
Mm-hmm.
and then you want to blame the superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
or the leaders of the district, but the superintendent and the leaders of the district are the ones teaching the kids and doing everything. Da 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 da. So you need to take some responsibility for that
Mm-hmm.
as well. But we don't, and I'm not saying we point fingers, but we collectively come together and say, how do we make this a better
Right.
system? But I've always, I always think that no matter what you are a leader in, whether it's an entire organization or a school or a classroom, the management of it and how you manage it
Mm-hmm.
will determine how well it goes. So we know there are some, just as an example, there's some teachers that are like excellent in classroom management because they connect to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
You can't connect to the kid if you've been. I had a teacher like this. That's why I use this as an example. Um, you're not engaging the kids. Then when trouble starts in the classroom, you expect them to listen to you. They'll be like, you don't even
Right.
pay us any mind. You don't even care
Right.
about us. But if it's someone and time after time again, you think that the teachers that are the toughest, I mean, they really give it to their students,
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that the kids love.
Right.
Those
Right.
are the ones that they
Right.
like.
Right.
I mean, they might, oh, she gives a lot of work and she da da da. But
Yeah.
when you have a vote, who you like the best, they always come out on top, or the ones that really invest a lot of time to them. But getting to your question, I mean, it's most people want someone to make the decisions for them. They're afraid to make decisions, and so you're a decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're like, sometimes you feel like you might be King Solomon, like, hey, I'm about to split the baby,
Mm-hmm.
whatever kind of thing. Because people don't want to be, and this is a human thing. This is not an education. People don't want to be held responsible
Mm-hmm.
because if you make a decision and it's the wrong decision, then they want to be held accountable. I've always been in a position that I will make the best decision based on the facts that are presented to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you give me all the facts, I can make a decision. I'm not saying it's always going to be the right decision,
Mm-hmm.
but there are very few decisions I would say in my career or life that I really regret it based on the information that I had. Now, if I were not given, or if a person is not given all of the information and they make a decision and later comes, they're like, well, I didn't, hey, I didn't know that. I mean, something recently came up in the district I just left. And someone comes like, that never hit the table. Your person like, yeah, that never hit the table. So how can we make a decision if that doesn't hit the table?
Right.
So
Right.
if so, based on the facts that you have and doing what's best for whatever it is that you're in charge of doing. So let's say for kids in schools or staff members, make the decision, and because most of us want someone to tell us what to do. And this is not a negative, so I hope no one gets offended by it. But the majority of people are sheep. They want to be herded.
Mm.
They don't want anybody really telling them. They really want to make the decision. Okay, you tell me. You get a call, but do you really have to call me for that? Make the decision.
Right.
But they want to be able to say, "Oh, the superintendent Lee said
Right.
this," or if it's something that's going to be controversial with, between staff members or a teachers
Mm-hmm.
association or whatever, they want to be able to say, "Oh, superintendent made this call."
Right. Right.
But that's because it's a difficult situation, or they anticipate it may become difficult. But if you're always making a decision, this is my mantra. If I'm making a decision that I think is right, although it may be controversial,
Mm-hmm.
right is right, wrong is wrong. I'm not making decisions for political reasons. I'm not making decisions. We need to make decisions that is best for kids, best for staff, best for the organization, and just leave it at that. And is it going to be, difficult at times? Oh yeah, decisions are difficult. I mean, just even same thing with parents. Sometimes as parents, we got to make a decision, but we don't
Mm-hmm.
defer. Well, at least I hope folks aren't deferring
Mm-hmm.
decisions in their family about parents. They might defer to, hey, go ask your mom.
Right.
If you didn't know it's something, go ask your mom.
Right.
Go
Right.
ask.
Right.
But it's a decision making, and a lot of people really don't, or they have a fear of being in that leadership role to make a decision. They want someone else to make a decision for them.
I always appreciated, Mr. Lee, that you always sort of put that same philosophy back to anything that I asked you. It was whether if I hired someone, listen, you own that.
Mhm.
Like, Mr. Lee, what you think? You think I made the listen? You make the decision. Whatever it was, it came back to exactly that point that you put folks in leadership positions because um, they needed to make those leadership those hard calls,
Mhm.
and you would make sure that listen, that's your bill, you make that call, but
Mhm.
you got to live with it, but you make that call, right? So I always appreciated that. I appreciated this is my little wrap up, Mr. Lee, but I wanted to say that I heard you speak a lot tonight, and it just kind of took me back through a lot of the life lessons that I learned from you. And so even with the respect that you always have for the students, I remember standing on stage one time and having a teacher get recognized for their AP scores, and I think you put the check was in my hand, and I think you gently took it out my hand and put it back in the teacher's hands because you were like, "Listen, this was about putting it in the hands of the person who did that work." And I always remembered that. I always appreciated that. I thought that was stellar because and when you talk about team, that was a team concept. Folks on the stage being recognized for what they did, not an administrator. Here, you take this, and then because something good happened in your space, I'm going to give this to that person who put that work in and put that work in with the students. So I definitely appreciate and applauded all of that, all of the life lessons that I was able to learn from you.